Hi guys, Katie Azevedo, SchoolHabits.com. Just given our state of uncertain in-person traditional education right now, I figured it'd be a good time to sit down and make a video with some tips for how to handle the e-learning that a lot of us are going to be doing indefinitely, depending on what your situation is in your state or in your country or in your district. But I think we'll be in this for the long haul. So doesn't help. I'm supposed to help. It doesn't hurt to sort of learn how to approach this to get you through it a little bit easier. I wish I had tips for how to end a pandemic, but I do not. And so I will stay in my lane and just talk school. Okay. Also, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that this looks like a lot different than my other setup. You know what? Everything is different right now, and I am home with the rest of the folks doing my job, doing my duty of social distancing, so I don't have my traditional resources on hand, lighting, camera, things like that, so I'm doing the best I can. I'm actually in my new office, which is less than a mile from my house, and I am the only person in the entire building, so I am as socially distanced as the rest of them. Okay. So e-learning can look different for everyone depending on the platform that your teacher or your school is using. I know that, for example, some people use Google Classroom, there's Canvas, there's Apex, there's Zoom, which is, I think, upholding the entire world right now, socially anyway. But regardless of your platform, the tips that I offer here should help because they're like broad sort of how to approach online learning tips, and then some specific ones too. Okay, so number one, you definitely want to designate a work area, and I know some of my other videos I say this too, the importance of a workspace, but you need a dedicated workspace. Like, you go to school and you work at a desk or a table, right? You don't work on your bed or in your couch. But when you're doing this online learning at home, you don't need a crazy setup. You don't need a home office. You just need a space that you go to every time. Kitchen table, if that's the only place, sure. But then like clear off the kitchen table from anything that's not related to what you're doing. If you can set up like just a hard surface in another room. You want to get your supplies, you want to keep the place neat, and let that be your dedicated place for as long as we're in this e-learning situation. But honestly, even if you're like in college or grad school and you're used to online classes, you should have a spot anyways that's just your space. Just like when you walk into the kitchen and you open the refrigerator door, what instantly happens, right? You get hungry. We are triggered by even if you're not hungry, we're triggered by our environment. So when you set up a learning space that looks like a learning space, I don't know, like with a pencil in it, in your computer, paper, then you're triggered to get into that space. Every little thing that you can do to get your brain into the space of, I am learning right now, I'm not snacking, I'm not sitting on the couch, that's gonna help you out. The second tip is you want to schedule your time, and this quarantine situation, I think a lot of, just in speaking with my family and my friends, and personally, I think it's sort of shifting or disrupting our sense of what time feels like. For a lot of us, time right now feels really big and expansive and unlimited. But for some of us, I'm hearing that, you know, you wake up and you do a few things, and then before you know it, it's 3 p.m. and then the time got away from you and we haven't done anything. And I just think this uncertainty of how long this situation is going to last has gotten us away from our natural sense of time. So with that said, I mean, you're not going to have 8 hours of work to do, schoolwork, but let's say you have 3 hours of work to do, you estimate, right? Then find a time during the day where you set apart 3 hours or 3 1-hour increments, but have that planned out. Like, now is not the time to be like, I don't know, I'll do it when I do it. Like, get a calendar, write it out, find a time, let the people in your home or your quarantine space, let them know that that's what you're going to be doing from 11 to 12, 1, 2, oh my god, I use my fingers to count, from 11 to 2 or from 12 to 3, whatever, but use some good old mathematical time management skills to set up a schedule for what you'll do when, because at this point with this situation going on right now, I don't think that we can rely on our inner sense of time management. Just pen, paper, calendar, guys, like check into the basics. Next tip works no matter what online learning platform that you're using. Print what you can. The nature of e-learning is obviously that everything is digital, so your teachers might assign, online worksheets. Print those out. Do the problems on the paper, and then take a pic and scan it back to your teacher, submit it how they want it. Your teacher might assign readings, articles, PDFs that are obviously all online. Print those out. Print them out so that you can annotate them or mark them up or have them in your hand. Remove yourself from the screen, because think about what e-learning is. It's all computer screens. That's going to drive yourself mad, and it's not good for your brain, and it's not good for your eyeballs, and it's not good for your butt because you're sitting down the whole time. Why don't you print out the things, remove yourself? Maybe this kind of seems like it's going against my first tip, which is find a designated spot. But if you're doing something like just reading, you can go to a new spot that just is somewhere away from a screen. Still quiet. You could take it outside to a place that's quiet. But when you print things out, you're giving yourself the chance to work with it differently, to write on it, to hold it, to go back and flip the page over and flip the page back and get a sense of what, visually speaking, what information is on which page, which is so much different than scrolling. If you're a visual learner, we remember where things are on a page. When you're a visual learner and you're on the computer and you're scrolling, your brain has no sense of where anything was on the page because everything's always right directly in front of your eye. So when you print things out, huge advantage to digital learners and digital learners, also for kinesthetic learners too, because again, you can take the paper, you can put it, this is what I would do. I would put it on my treadmill and walk reading it. It's just something to get away from the screen. Once you print out all the things that you can possibly print out, then put them in a folder. Keep them just in case later you need to answer questions about them, you need to write an essay on them, you need to journal about them. But that's where all your notes are going to be, because if you're printing them out, the whole point is to annotate on them. And you want to keep those annotations somewhere. I mean, I guess if you want to eventually get that stuff stored in the computer, print it out, take annotations, and then scan it back into your computer. It's not that hard. You can get free PDF scanner apps. I think I have one that's actually called PDF Scanner. And it just scans it back as a PDF if you want to store it digitally eventually. The other thing too is if you have something that's not printable, you go to print it and it comes out all busted up with the format, you can copy and paste it. Just copy the text and paste it into a Google Doc and then format it to what you want. Change the font, make it bigger, and then you can print it from the Google Doc. Also, if you copy and paste text from, let's say a PDF or whatever into a Google Doc, then you can take your notes right in the Google Doc. So you can just use the basic editing functions like bold, highlight, underline, or use the highlighting words. A highlighting function, that's what it's called. Yeah, you just highlight the text, right? So that you're doing your annotations, because sometimes when your teacher gives you a PDF, you can't annotate in the PDF itself. I think in some programs like Notability, you can take your notes and highlight and mark things up right inside the program. But in some things like a PDF, you can't necessarily do that. Or if it's an online article that your teacher found and posted for you to read, you can't necessarily take notes on that. So if you copy and paste that into Google Docs, then you can even do the insert comment function and take your notes along the margins that way. Another tip, I would use Google Images as much as you can. So I should backtrack and say, okay, when you're e-learning, in most cases, when we're thrown into it like this and your teachers are scrambling to put something together out there for an online curriculum, in most of these cases, you don't have a teacher face-to-face to teach you the material, right? So you don't have somebody teaching it to you. That is hard for a lot of people when it's not a human to human. But regardless of whether you're doing your online learning to get us through this pandemic, or if you're just generally taking online courses, if you don't understand the material in the way that your teacher presented it, okay? Don't just call it a day and walk away like, I don't understand it, so I'm just gonna not understand it and leave it there. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Now is the time to use your resources, which if you're staring at a computer all day, that is your resource, right? Use Google Images. Use Google Images to look up the things that you're supposed to be learning. Google Images, in my opinion, is much better for many things than Google regular old, what's it called? Google, oh my God, I can't talk sometimes. Google web search. It's better than Google web search because when you do a Google image search, you get like visuals that other teachers have put up online. You get images, you get graphics, you get diagrams, you get timelines, you get with the infographics. Sometimes you just need the thing that you're supposed to be learning presented in a different way, and Google Images is the place for that. Obviously, videos, YouTube, all that stuff, but if you don't understand something that your teacher's teaching you, use your resources to find that material somewhere else. But there's a couple other things. You gotta submit your assignments on time. Now, sometimes with the e-learning, you have to submit your assignment by like 11 a.m., particularly on a particular day. If that's the case, use the reminders in your phone or your alarm, whatever it is, to go off at like 10 a.m. so that you remember to submit your assignments. You don't want to like do all this work and then forget to submit it. Like submitting the thing is part of the assignment too. And sometimes a platform will shut down, like with the time deadline passes, then you can't submit it unless you email your teacher and say, hey, I missed the deadline, sorry, blah, blah. Just make sure you get your stuff done on time. Something else is if you're doing a lot of online reading and it's just getting to you, you can use an e-reader. You don't want to pay for one because I think that's dumb. I think Dragon Naturally Speaking is a good one, but that you have to pay for. There's a Google Chrome extension that works for Google Docs. It's called Chrome Vox, V-O-X. It's not amazing. The voice sounds like a robot, but it is like, it's an option. But that sometimes, like if your eyeballs are tired, you just want a robot to read to you, that can work. Another thing is to keep track of your assignments on paper, because when you're using a digital platform, sometimes like some good programs, like I personally have used Canvas, and that will keep a running tab of upcoming assignments, and when they're due, it's kind of like on your dashboard, like what's coming up next. But not all digital platforms are like that, particularly if you are thrown into this e-learning, right, without a real digital platform and your teachers are just using like Google Classroom or something. My suggestion is to just keep track of all your assignments on a piece of paper. If you have an assignment notebook, that's great. If not, a piece of paper. When desperate times call for desperate measures, and this could be the time to just use a piece of paper, that's perfectly fine. But you don't want to have to go scavenger hunting for your assignments online when you could just have them all in one spot. Okay, so that's long-winded. I feel like there's more tips, more ways to get through this e-learning that I'll probably think of as we go. If I come up with more, I'll be sure to share them. Hope you didn't mind the more informal background, but this is what we got. All right, good luck to you guys. Bye. Nope, we are gonna start that over. Okay. What I was going to say, and I lose my train of thought. What was I gonna say? Hold on. Was I gonna say something about